Welcome to Elevate English. Elevate your English. Elevate your life. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to the Elevate English channel. Let's start our story. The Melody of Us. A small, unassuming music shop sat at the corner of Willow Street and 3rd Avenue in a sleepy town called Belhaven. The shop, named Harmony's Echo, was a haven for anyone who loved music or sought a moment of peace in a chaotic world. Its shelves were lined with records, sheet music, and instruments of every kind, but the heart of the shop was its owner, Julian. Julian had inherited Harmony's Echo from his father, a man whose love for music had shaped the small town's sense of rhythm. Julian had grown up surrounded by melodies, his father often filling their home with the sound of an old piano or strumming his guitar, while Julian, as a boy, tried to replicate the tunes on his own violin. Music was in his blood, something that was passed down to him and that he had, in turn, passed onto the shop. At 33, Julian was a quiet man with a steady routine, his life deeply entwined with the sounds of the instruments and the sweet music of his memories. But beneath the calm exterior, Julian had long since buried any belief that he would find love. He had once been in love, deeply, irrevocably, but a painful breakup had left scars that he hadn't been able to mend. The relationship had ended almost 5 years ago, but Julian could never bring himself to truly move on. Music was his constant, the one thing that had never let him down, but the idea of love, of opening his heart again, felt foreign and out of reach. The shop, with its creaky wooden floors and the faint smell of old paper and fresh coffee, had become his refuge. He spent his days arranging records, tuning instruments, and waiting for the few customers who visited. He never complained, but he also never allowed himself to dream of anything more. That was until one rainy evening, when a woman walked into the shop. Her name was Amelia, and she was nothing like the usual customers Julian had grown accustomed to. Amelia was vibrant, with a soft but confident demeanor. Her eyes were a deep shade of brown, her hair a dark cascade of curls that framed her face, and when she smiled, it was as if the entire shop lit up. She looked around, clearly intrigued by the place, before her gaze landed on Julian behind the counter. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, her voice warm and welcoming, but I couldn't help but notice the sound of a violin. It's been a while since I've heard such a beautiful tone. Julian was taken aback. He had been playing his violin softly while working, but he didn't think anyone could hear it through the shop's thick walls. "Oh, thank you. I didn't think anyone could hear." Amelia smiled again. "You'd be surprised how far music can travel, even in a place like this. I was just passing by when I heard it." Julian smiled back, his heart inexplicably racing. "You're very kind. Would you like to have a seat? I'm just finishing up here." Amelia nodded and took a seat near the window, observing the shop with interest. Julian could feel her eyes on him as he resumed tuning a guitar, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he found himself more aware of her presence than anyone else who had ever stepped into Harmony's Echo. The two of them talked for a while, about the weather, the town, and then music. Amelia was an artist, a painter, and she confessed that she had always been drawn to the harmony between art and music. She had spent most of her life trying to understand how one form of expression could complement the other, and she found herself fascinated by Julian's shop. She had recently moved to Belhaven, looking for some peace and inspiration after a few turbulent years in the city. "I've been meaning to come in for a while," she said, her voice low but sincere. "Something about this place just calls to me." Julian was struck by her words. It was as if she had read his mind. He often felt that same pull toward the shop, though he never had anyone to share it with. "I'm glad you found your way here," he said softly, Amelia smiled, her gaze lingering on the rows of old records. I think I found more than just a shop. I found a place that feels, or safe. Julian was quiet for a moment, unsure of how to respond. He had always kept people at arm's length, never allowing anyone to get too close. Yet there was something about Amelia's presence that made him want to open up, to share the things he had kept hidden for so long. But he didn't. Instead, he asked, what kind of music do you like? Amelia hesitated before answering. I've always had an appreciation for classical music, but there's something about jazz that makes me feel free. The improvisation, the rhythm, how it speaks to me. Julian raised an eyebrow. Jazz? Ho? That's a rare choice. I've got a collection of jazz records. If you'd like, I can show you. She nodded, her eyes lighting up. I'd love that. Julian walked to the back of the shop, pulling out a few records and carefully placing them on the counter. They spent the next hour talking about their favorite artists, the way music could shape emotions, and how both their lives had been influenced by the melodies they had grown up with. With every word, Julian felt something stir inside him, a quiet yearning he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. It was as if Amelia's very presence was unlocking a part of him that he had buried deep. When the rain had stopped and the evening sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the shop's windows, Amelia stood to leave. I should probably go. But I'm glad I found this place, she said, her voice softer now, almost wistful. Julian nodded. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope to see you again. I'll be back, Amelia promised with a smile. This place feels like it holds a kind of magic. For the next few days, Julian couldn't stop thinking about Amelia. He couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. She hadn't just been another customer, she had made him feel seen in a way he hadn't experienced in years. The next few weeks passed, and Amelia did indeed return. Often, she came in the late afternoons, staying for hours as they talked about music, life, and art. It didn't take long for Julian to notice the way her laughter made his heart skip a beat, or how the way she spoke about her paintings made him see the world in a different light. He began to look forward to her visits, the way she made the quiet shop feel alive with the sound of her voice. Their conversations started to take on a deeper tone. They shared stories about their childhoods. Julian told her about his father's influence, how his father had introduced him to the beauty of sound and rhythm, and how, after his father's death, Julian had clung to music as both a solace and a reminder of everything he had lost. Amelia spoke of her time in the city, her struggles to find her place as an artist, and how she had retreated to Belhaven seeking peace after her last relationship had fallen apart. Her vulnerability touched Julian in a way he wasn't used to. It was like they were two halves of a whole, both wounded, both healing, yet unwilling to give up on life just yet. One evening, after weeks of their growing friendship, Amelia showed up at the shop with something different in her hands, an old, worn-out violin case. I found this at a second-hand shop today, she said, a mischievous smile on her face. I thought you might like it. Julian raised an eyebrow. It looks like it's seen better days. Amelia laughed. I think it's perfect for you. She opened the case, revealing a beautiful violin, its wood faded, the strings worn but still intact. Julian's heart caught in his throat. The violin was old, but there was something about it that felt right. Would you like to play it? Amelia asked, her voice soft but hopeful. Julian hesitated for a moment, the weight of the moment settling on him. He hadn't played for anyone in so long, not since the breakup that had broken his heart. But the violin in his hands felt like a bridge to something new, a way to open himself up again. With a deep breath, he began to play, the notes at first tentative but soon flowing more freely. Amelia watched him, her eyes full of admiration. The music seemed to fill the shop, wrapping them both in its warmth. As the last note faded, Julian lowered the violin, his hands trembling slightly. He hadn't expected it to feel so good, so freeing. He looked up at Amelia, and for the first time in years, he let himself feel vulnerable. "That was beautiful," she said softly, stepping closer. Julian smiled, his heart pounding in his chest. "It's been a while since I've played for someone." Amelia reached out and took his hand. "Then I'm glad I was here." In that moment, Julian knew that something had shifted in him, something that he had been afraid to let happen. Amelia had brought a new light into his life, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't want to hide from it. The next few weeks brought a shift in their relationship. They spent more and more time together, often at Harmony's Echo, but sometimes outside, walking through the quiet streets of Belhaven. The connection between them deepened with each passing day, and as the seasons changed, so did their love. One evening, as winter approached and the snow began to fall softly around them, Julian finally worked up the courage to speak his heart. They were sitting in the back of the shop, surrounded by the soft hum of the piano and the crackling warmth of the fireplace. "Amelia," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I've been scared for a long time. Scared to open myself up again, to let anyone in. But you make me feel like I can be myself again. You've helped me remember why music is so important to me." Amelia looked at him, her eyes filled with tenderness. "Julian, I feel the same way. I came here looking for peace, but I found something so much more. I found you." Julian smiled, his heart swelling with the love he hadn't known he was capable of feeling again. "I don't want to let you go." "You don't have to," Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible over the quiet hum of the shop. "I'm here, with you." And from that moment on, they became inseparable. Together, they created a life filled with music, art, and love, a life where their hearts beat in perfect harmony, and their future was as bright as the notes that echoed between them. In the years that followed, Julian and Amelia grew closer, their love only deepening as they navigated life together. They traveled the world, played music for crowds, and continued to share their love for art and creation. But no matter where they went, Harmony's Echo remained their home, the place where their love story had begun and where it would continue to flourish for years to come. Their hearts beat in time with the music they made, and their love echoed in every note.